of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Make sure that fits nice, that you can hear us. I'm Al Olszewski. I'm a state senator for District 6. For those of you that are unfamiliar with that, that's the area west and south of Kalispell. It goes all along the west shore of Flathead, all the way down to Polson, and it cuts across north of the Cut Across Road, and then stays mostly on the west side of the road going up the east shore, all the way to about Woods Bay. Thank you for coming here. So, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. All right. Well, you bless us with your time. It's one of your most valuable treasures. And it seems like we have less and less of it every day. But I thank you for being here. We don't want to waste your time. We want to inform you and talk to you. And then would love to take discussion. And quite honestly, I'm going to preempt. We're going to ask for your support if you agree with what you hear tonight. Okay? So, People's Compact. The big question is it legitimate? Is this process legitimate? And the answer is yes. In our country, we have a civic governing institution where there is nothing that we cannot discuss, dialogue, debate, and bring back up to the question, should it be changed? Even our United States Constitution can be changed through the amendment process, correct? Same thing happens at the state level. Our Montana Constitution, in fact, we're asked every 10 years, do we want to change it? And if so, go through a process. Same with the CSKT Water Compact. It's not even a formal compact yet. It's only been signed by one of the three parties involved. Right? So it's not a done deal. But there's nothing that's ever set in stone. In our country, if you have a grievance, you're allowed to bring that grievance up to your government. And you can petition for redress of that grievance. So, yes, this is a legitimate idea. Right? Is this People's Compact set in stone? And the answer is no. This is an idea with a framework, and it's to be taken as a petition to the federal government, to our legislators there, specifically our United States senators. Yes, with Senator Steve Gaines. I'd love for John Tester to pick it up and carry it just as is. We all. But the fact is that may not happen. He's already got his Senate Bill 30-13 that actually only has, about 21 more days before it dies. Yeah. Right? We hope that it dies a peaceful death. Okay. So, this is, and why up at the federal government? Because that's where the next debate and dialogue occurs, right? So, let's go back. Let's rehash the idea. In 2015, I was a freshman House member with some of my friends here, fellow freshman Mark Nolan. I think, Carrie, you were a little bit more experienced, and so was Carl. Keith was our majority leader. But the fact is that on this issue and a couple other issues, we did not have the ability in our House to have full and faithful and honest debate, dialogue, and as legislators amend an idea to make it better or excellent, because no law should become, or no idea should become a law unless it's excellent. A good idea should not just become law. It needs to be refined by open debate, dialogue, and going to battle for a vote. And if it doesn't work, we refine it again. And quite honestly, this process occurred in a bureaucratic way. It didn't occur for the people, it occurred for bureaucracies. For the tribal council and their bureaucracy. For the state government, the governor's office and their bureaucracies. And at the federal level, some of the federal bureaucracies that were involved to try to help influence what they wanted. And what was it? This is dealing about trying to quantitate a federal reserved water right. Okay? What does that mean? Well, The government is allowed to create reservations. They can reserve a piece of property for some purpose. Some of those are for a homeland for the Native Americans, as we've seen through our history. Some of that is military reservations for Air Force bases, Army bases, or places that they can do military maneuvering. A national forest is a reserved property, a reservation for a purpose. And that's the thing. Every one of those reserved properties are for a purpose. And what we found in 1908 with the U.S. Supreme Court, through the old man winters from up on the High Line versus the United States, is that anything that the government reserves a property right for implies that it has a water right. And that water right has to fulfill the purpose of the reservation. So an example is, your national forests, the purpose of a national forest is to raise timber. So there needs to be a water right to raise timber. It's a great place for recreation, but there really isn't a water right for recreation unless they change what the purpose of that reservation is for, right? So what we have is we were placed in a position where we needed to quantitate a federal reserve water right for our Indian reservations. And the commission that did that seems to have done it pretty well with all the other compacts with the other reservations, except for this one, where we've seen a radical departure. We don't need to spend hours going through that. We did that for years, correct? But here's what happened. It was brought to the state in our legislature. We were told it had to be passed as is. As legislators, we were not allowed, we were fought and we were prevented to be able to amend the process or change it. And it was basically shoved down our throats. When it would die in 2015 in committee, the rules of the House were broken. They were shattered, and we went to the rules of the jungle. And then they said they passed it with 51 votes. Right? By throwing out the House rules and throwing us to the rule of the jungle, it was said that it was passed with 51 votes. The problem is that's unconstitutional. And I don't care what the Montana Supreme Court said. They are legitimately our equal partners as branches, but they were wrong. Our Montana Constitution says clearly that if you're going to grant immunity to the state so that they can't be sued or their agents, you need a supermajority to do so. And they didn't have it. All the other compacts that passed, for water compacts with all the other reservations, passed with supermajorities. All right? They met that level of vote and support, but not the CSKP water compact. Right? So in this process, we'll have questions at the end if we can do that, is that this process went on, and all we thought, as legislators, is we had to fight this in court. We're going to have to adjudicate it in court. But what happened is this summer was something that I thought was very optimistic. We were asked as legislators to come listen to a group of the people from Lake County and Missoula County, irrigators, who basically were challenged in their group of saying, how are we going to fight this in court? And someone came up with the idea that said, why not an idea for a framework for an alternative water compact that's even better than the one that is presented currently, and it's for the people. It's better for the people, not for the governments and the bureaucracies. So this group of people, it's not new to them. They were in the process, let's put it this way, they were not at the table, they were on the table for decades. So they were very knowledgeable about what's going on, and they had to humble themselves in a situation. Instead of fighting, they had to humble themselves and come up with something better, not only for the irrigators and the non-irrigators, but for the Native Americans, the tribal members, not necessarily for the tribal government, for the state, for all the people of all the state, and really, I think an idea that's better for the people of the United States. Because you remember, the one thing that sticks out in everybody's mind is that this compact created a concept that's never been before legitimized or ratified, and that's Aboriginal water rights outside of a federal reservation, and given to a third party without remuneration to the people that property right belongs to, right? Namely, the water of Western Montana belongs to the state of Montana and its people, it says so in our Constitution, for the benefit of the people and for their welfare. And if you give any property right from the state, if the state owns a property right for the people, it should never be given away to a third party without remuneration. Right? We should always get something of value for a property right. And it doesn't matter who that third party is, whether it's a municipality, if it's the irrigators, farmers, Canada, or a sovereign entity of a Native American tribe. It goes down to simply property rights. So I want to show you, we're going to talk about this in a second, but remember, when we were just over in Lewistown, and we were showing this picture and talking about this concept of an idea of starting an alternative framework for a compact. And a gentleman, a rancher, came up and he stood. His name is Jim Larson. And he's from the Laurel Billings area, I believe. And he said, you know what, Doc? He said, I'm going to tell you right now, and the whole crowd, is that I checked on the value of my property. And because right now there's a water claim on it, and a water claim that's going that the CSKT tribe placed on it over by Laurel, that his property value has been depreciated in half, as he was told by a realtor, because he's interested in selling his ranch, his farmland. Right? This has consequences. They were also, and we also reminded them over in Lewistown, that the Cattlemen's Association, this weekend, was that when those organizations supported the water compact in 15, they were told that if you support the water compact and just give them Western Montana, they won't file water claims on our water and we'll be okay. That's what they were told. And then what had happened? They filed water claims on their property once they supported it, and their legislators on Eastern Montana voted for it to make that simple majority. Right? So when they're told, well, we promise to take them off later once we get the compact, I said, follow the trend. Follow the trend. Get it in writing first. But anyway, with that, I would like to have Kate talk to you about this. And I want to thank you for your time.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Vandermoor. I'm the chair of the Montana Land and Water Alliance, and I've been working with all of our colleagues here for a long time, 6 years on this compact. I want to start out with two things. One, always, John 8:32. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So do you know about these claims, or do you just believe? Or do you just believe them? Okay, there we go. So the second thing I'd like to start out with is we're not here to... You're hitting the button.
Come over.
We're not here to talk about the old CSKT compact.
Here you go. You keep talking.
All right.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. You're going to sit in the middle.
All right.
All right.
Let me start with one other statement from John F. Kennedy. The times are too grave, the challenge too urgent, and the stakes too high to permit the customary passions of political debate. Don't call me a racist here. We're here to talk about something serious. We are not here to curse the darkness, but to light the candle that can guide us through that darkness to a safe and sane future. So, as Dr. Al was talking about, a Federal Reserve water right, what the CSKT compact was supposed to be about was to quantify the Federal Reserve water right. So, you heard Dr. Al, the CSKT compact was supposed to be about Federal Reserve water rights. And as he said, the Federal Reserve water rights are based on the purpose of the reservation, and they're restricted to the reservation. So for every compact in Montana, except for this compact, the CSKT, all of these water rights are restricted to the reservation. So I'd like to show you this map because this describes where we are right now. None of the area in green is a Federal Reserve water right. None of it is. The only Federal Reserve water right is right on the reservation. So all of these green areas are not Federal Reserve rights. What did you hear as far as sound bites go? Oh, the treaty underlies these off-reservation water rights. This is really good. You heard that as a soundbite, right? The treaty underlies off-reservation water rights. Read Article 3 of the Treaty of Hellgate. It's an access right. It's not a water right. But what you heard is, oh yeah, they can file all these claims everywhere because the treaty underlies it. That's a soundbite that is incorrect. We spent 6 years trying to educate the state about this issue, but they nevertheless went ahead with it. Okay. All the areas in green are not Federal Reserve water rights. Now, let me show you the area outlined here in red is the Aboriginal areas of the CSKT. And that was ceded to the United States in Article 1 of the Treaty of Hellgate. Then, out of that land, Congress, through the passage of the Treaty of Hellgate, created the reservation right here. So, now how many of you have heard of the Indian Claims Commission?
Indian claim what?
Indian Claims Commission. In the 1940s, the United States said to every single tribe in the country, look, you can come to us for any claim that you have that you will forever have, forever, and we'll deal with them. It's speak now or forever hold your peace. So in that Indian Claims Commission case, the CSKT filed all claims for this area within red. And the United States settled most of them, sometimes dismissed one or two, but basically settled most of them. Now in 1966, one of the last claims was secured, but the tribes signed a stipulation agreement, an agreement that they signed that said, okay, forever, when we take the money, and when we take the, see? When we take the money, and when we take the land, and when we take the settlement, Aboriginal title is extinguished. That's it. So the stipulation agreement said this, and I'm going to read you the language that the tribes signed. They said, the stipulation agreement said, this judgment shall finally dispose of all claims or demands which the CSKT has asserted or could have asserted in this case against the United States. And the CSKT shall be barred from asserting all such claims or demands in any future action. If you've ever signed a stipulation agreement, that's it. So ignoring that stipulation agreement, the tribes filed water rights all over western Montana. How did we get there? Not only are these not Federal Reserve water rights, but they were barred by the Indian Claims Commission from filing them. Here's the other thing here. Remember I told you they filed the claims with the United States only in here. They never filed any claims over here. Never filed any claims over here. So by law, everything is barred here. And besides, these claims are not Federal Reserve water rights. So how did we get here? We have a soundbite compact that everyone just believed. They didn't know the truth of the compact. They just believed what they were told. So the treaty, Article 3, said all of that underlies, and you hear it still today, that underlies the off-reservation water rights. They've got all those water rights. No. When you look at the law, when you look at that stipulation agreement, no, it doesn't. When you look at the treaty, no, it doesn't. It's an access right. The second thing that you hear quite often is that the tribes reserved all of this land for themselves. And they also reserved all these rights over here. Who reserved the reservation? The United States. Who settled these claims? The United States. The tribes did not reserve their own reservation. The reservation was created by an affirmative act of Congress.
So when they say we reserved everything, of course, they're gonna take everything. When they say, don't acknowledge the Indian Claims Commission or that 1966 agreement, of course, they're gonna file everything here. The shame of this is that our state allowed this to happen. You just heard what happened with Jim Larson. His property rights have gone in half. I encourage you all to take a look at this and do your own research like he did. So in any case, this is why we're here. This is why we're going all over the state. And as I stated in the beginning, we're not here to curse the darkness. To me, the worst part of this compact, of the CSKT compact, the darkness, is this. You need to know that in the court documents in the compact, when they say that these claims will be dismissed, they will not be finally dismissed. So what you have here is permanent litigation or extortion, right? Just give me some money and I won't file these claims. But now that you know the truth about this, you can't go here. So we're here to shine some light on this. The People's Compact basically tries to shine some light on this darkness and come up with a solution that protects everybody, including all these people over here and over here who may not have known that the tribes filed on their claims. Thank you.
Thanks for putting up with me.
Thank you, Kate. I'd like to talk a little bit about how we got to where we are now. We've been fighting this compact since about 2012 when it was first published. I actually had hair when it started. So what we presented tonight is what we will present tonight is based on 7 years' experience in trying to deal with this compact. Kate referred to the passage in John about the truth will set you free. And that's the tack we took in dealing with the compact. We tried to show people facts and data, and we felt that if we showed people facts and data, the truth would come out and they'd realize how wrong they were. They tried to model this with some sort of a computer model. We were able to refute that. So they got away from quantifying water and shifted over to adaptive management, which means we don't quantify the water. I don't know how you get a water right when you can't quantify the volume and the time period. I don't know what a water right is when you just say, well, it's adaptive management. Nonetheless, it was these kind of things that we were fighting against. Back in April, an irrigator from Mission got a hold of several of us and said, everybody knows how bad this compact is, but why don't you guys look at it differently and come up with an alternative? And first we pushed back. We said, we've been fighting this thing, and, we proposed an alternative once and never got anywhere with it. He said, we got to really think about it. We met with him and had a couple of meetings with him, and our team came to the conclusion that it was time for a paradigm shift. Our previous thoughts were, we'll let this thing get passed in Congress and then we'll find a legal foundation to help us to litigate this because it's so unconstitutional. And we changed our position, and because of the background that we had with this for the past 6.5 years, we were able to develop a compact based on that experience relatively quickly. And we put together a chart to kind of compare the compact plus Senator Tester's bill with the People's Compact. And a member of our board, Kerry White, who's here tonight, was going to Washington, D.C. to talk to some of our congressional delegation there. And he said, I'd like to take that there and show it to some of the congressional delegation and see what their response is. I'm going to hold you in suspense, and then Kerry White will come up later and tell you what actually happened in D.C. So with that, Kerry, next.
Is this thing work? Good. Erie White House District 64, four-term legislator, I'm chair of the natural resource. Our ranch is right here, and we have late 1800 water rights. We run a cow calf operation, irrigated hay. My great-grandfather came in 1864 and settled the Gallatin Valley there, and we're still farming and ranching the same place. And the CSKT, I drove up here today at probably 5-6 hours to get up here, and the folks up here have filed on my senior water rights down in the Gallatin. I voted against the compact, and there was one important thing inside that compact when I saw it that very upsetting to me. As Dr. Al was talking, our Constitution, the water in the state of Montana belongs to the state of Montana for the benefit of the people. And I took an oath of office when I got into legislature, and inside the compact it says that the water shall be given to the federal government. And then the next line says, federal government will hold it in trust and may let the tribe use it. So in my mind, that's giving the federal government the water of the state of Montana. And I just couldn't, I think it's a violation of our Constitution. So in the Gallatin, I have a good friend of mine, a couple of good friends. One is Greg Gianforte, started Right Now Technologies, and the other one is Senator Steve Daines. He went to Bozeman Senior High School. He's a little bit younger than I am, but nonetheless, he's a good guy. So Greg Gianforte got appointed as chairman of the subcommittee on national forests back in Washington, D.C., and I was invited to go back and testify. We're seeing a lot of catastrophic fires and federal land burning up, and you probably saw, you know, the tragedy in Paradise in California, and all those people lost their homes, and then down around Malibu there was another one, and then of course the rains and the mudslides and everything that occurs after it. So I was invited out to testify in front of his committee with the commissioner out of Baker County, Oregon, Bill Harvey, and Amy Garnett. She's the head of the Off-Road Association out of the state of California. But while I was out there, I talked to Kate, Madeline, everybody, and asked them if I could present that compact or this concept to Senator Daines. And so I set up a meeting with the senator and sat down with him for, oh gosh, half hour, 45 minutes. And I told him that he knows about this compact here, and his big concern here is the division that it has created in the state of Montana. It has pit rancher against rancher, farmer against farmer, property owner against property owner. And it's this division, if anybody knows, Senator Daines, he's a problem solver. He worked for Procter & Gamble and then went to work for Greg Gianforte at Right Now Technology, solving problems for companies out there. And he really wants to solve this problem. And so when I sat down with him and I told him about the concept of settling the claims, quantifying the water, the amount of water, taking care of the irrigation project, and allowing the state of Montana control over the water in the state of Montana, he was very excited about that concept. Yeah. And I've been communicating with Steve regularly, along with folks here, and to bring something forward, and kind of traveling all over the state, trying to explain to folks. And Kate did a great job of explaining the different treaties and everything on the Hellgate and the Winters Doctrine, and how all of these reserve water rights came about. So I just want to let everybody know that I'm talking to the congressionals, and they're very, very interested in looking at an alternative compact. And like Al said, another 21 days, I think, and Tester's compact will will expire. And I think we have an opportunity in the Senate to bring something forward that has a benefit to not only the tribe, the tribal members, but also the people in the state of Montana. You talk about Jim Larson up here. He's found out in this area somewhere and devalued his property just because of those claims. And we were told in legislature that if we passed that compact, that the tribe would not file those claims. And I think it was about a week after we got out of legislature that they filed those, I think, 10,000 water claims. So I think it was disingenuous for us to be told that and then not to be able to make changes to that compact. So I appreciate being up here. You guys had some great weather for me coming up here. Appreciate that. Thanks.
At this time, what we have is a video that will go over the main points of the People's Compact. This is about 7 or 8 minutes, and 10 minutes.
After more than 6 years of opposition to the CSKT Water Compact, arguably the most divisive and controversial legislation ever to be ratified by the state of Montana, we are pleased to be able to talk with you about a positive solution to Montana's most important issue, resolution of the federal reserve water rights for the Flathead Indian Reservation. We call it the People's Compact, also known as the Mending Fences Act. Developed for the people, by the people, it is a good faith, no-nonsense proposal intended to benefit people, not governments. As we begin this short video, we ask you to shrug off all notions of the failed government solution and focus instead on a viable remedy that puts people first. So what exactly is the People's Compact? Taking to heart the lessons learned from the CSKT Compact, we began with a clean slate. This is because we found nothing redeemable with Montana's Senate Bill 262, John Tester's Senate Bill 3013, or even the methods that were used to garner its questionable ratification in the 2015 Montana legislature. Simply put, the revision of history, the blatant disregard for established law and the Constitution, and the federalization of our water represented in the government solution was not an acceptable place to begin. So we threw it all out and started over. We began with the following goals: to stay within the confines of federal reserve water rights law and the Constitution, to provide a simple and final resolution for all, to offer a solution that benefits people, not governments, to protect the water rights of all citizens, and to mend fences with our friends and neighbors. The foundation of the People's Compact includes these important cornerstones: the acknowledgement, settlement, and resolution of the final outstanding grievance filed in the U.S. Court of Claims by the CSKT in 1951 that is related to the water of the Flathead Irrigation Project. A proper quantification of the federal reserve water rights for today's Flathead Indian Reservation based upon the primary purposes of the reservation. Settlement funds for the development of the CSKT's federal reserved rights and for the rehabilitation of the Flathead Irrigation Project. Withdrawal by the United States CSKT of all off-reservation and other non-federal reserved water rights claims in the compact and the 10,000 claims filed in June of 2015, as well as competing claims within the Flathead Irrigation Project. We believe the acknowledgement and settlement of the tribe's 1951 grievance concerning water used by the Flathead Irrigation Project is the most important part of this compact. After receiving special permission from Congress to file its grievances with the U.S. Court of Claims, attorneys for the CSKT filed a petition of grievances in 1951. Congress intended that this suit be similar to the intent of the Indian Claims Commission, where the resolution of grievances was to put these claims to rest with finality. In the years that followed, each of the tribe's several grievances in that lawsuit were resolved either with settlements or, in a couple of instances, dismissals, with the exception of one. The tribes claimed that by initiating and constructing the Flathead irrigation project, the United States appropriated large quantities of water to benefit the owners of allotted lands, mostly whites, for which the tribe had never been compensated. That grievance was dismissed without prejudice in 1965 without ever having been resolved. The People's Compact resolves that long ago claim by providing a generous financial settlement for damages. In accordance with all of the other monetary settlements in that suit, it proposes that 85% of the funds go to individual tribal members and 15% to the tribal government for government programs. In contrast to John Tester's Senate Bill 3013 that specifies no portion of the funds shall be distributed on a per capita basis to any member of the tribes, the People's Compact awards a per capita settlement of this claim to each of its approximate 7,500 tribal members where it rightfully belongs. As of September 2018, Montana still has not made public the quantity of water awarded to the United States CSKT in their compact. Neither has John Tester. We can only assume this is because they don't want to expose the overreach their compact is, nor do they want legislators or Congress to be able to make an informed decision. A proper quantification of the Federal Reserve water rights of the CSKT was never done. However, it should have included the determination of the primary purposes of the reservation and a quantification of the volume of water necessary to fulfill the purposes of the reservation. The People's Compact followed these guidelines and fairly quantifies the Federal Reserve water rights for the United States CSKT. The primary purposes of the reservation come from the treaty and include agriculture and industry, on-reservation fisheries, and allotments for fee-simple permanent homes for individual Indians. Based upon these purposes, the People's Compact proposes Federal Reserve water rights of 508,000 acre-feet of water per year, which includes existing irrigation project fisheries water that was awarded to them by the courts in 1985. Priority dates for these claims are 1855, the date of the creation of the reservation. The People's Compact brings the CSKT Federal Reserve water rights in line with other tribes in Montana and throughout the United States. By appropriately quantifying the tribe's Federal Reserve water rights, a fair and unbiased water rights adjudication process can proceed in Montana. Other provisions of the People's Compact include settlement funds for the development of the tribe's Federal Reserve water rights, a per capita distribution of damages to individual tribal members, as we've already mentioned, rehabilitation of the Flathead irrigation project for the benefit of fisheries and irrigation. When it is all said and done, we expect the total settlement to be less than 1/3 of the funds proposed to be awarded to the tribal government in Senate Bill 3013. There also will be no $55 million state contribution to the settlement. Protections for the Flathead irrigation project include release of construction liens on irrigator properties. Historic use and duties of water for all irrigators will continue. Federal provisions for the low-cost block of power and net power revenue related to Kerr Dam will remain permanent features of the project. Although 90% of the project lands are privately owned, management of the project has been politicized under the Bureau of Indian Affairs. To correct this, the People's Compact proposes that project oversight be transferred to the Bureau of Reclamation. This paves the way to fulfill Congress's mandate in the Flathead Allotment Act to turn management of the project over to the owners of the lands that are served by it. The People's Compact provides for dual administration of water, as in all other Montana water compacts. We also propose finality because the People's Compact will resolve a long outstanding grievance of the tribes related to the Flathead irrigation project. Off-reservation claims have no foundational basis in the law or the tribe's treaty. For these reasons, the People's Compact requires withdrawal of all United States CSKT off-reservation claims in both eastern and western Montana. It also requires that duplicative and conflicting claims on the Flathead irrigation project be withdrawn. Any outstanding lawsuits related to waters for the reservation will be dismissed, paving the way for a fair and unbiased adjudication of water rights throughout the state of Montana. In summary, the People's Compact does exactly what the federal government and state of Montana should have done. It settles a long outstanding grievance of the CSKT related to water within the Flathead irrigation project. It awards damage settlement funds on a per capita basis to individual tribal members where it properly belongs, enhancing tribal member self-determination. It properly quantifies the amount of water necessary to fulfill the purpose of the reservation of land. It provides a fair resolution for the benefit of people, not governments. It provides funds for the development of the tribe's federal reserve water rights and rehabilitation of the Flathead irrigation project. It unites rather than divides. It protects the water rights of all Montanans, including tribal members, and it provides a pathway forward for a better future for all. For more information and to support our efforts, contact us through our website at www.thepeoplescompact.wordpress.com. Thank you.
Boone Cole from Dixon. I'm a third-generation rancher in the Dockville Valley. I am currently chairman of the Dockville Irrigation District in the Flathead Irrigation Project, past chairman of the Flathead Joint Board of Control for the irrigation project. I had the honor of serving with Jerry Lascotti when all this was coming to a head, and I just want to say that I got on the Joint Board of Control when this, back in about 2010, when this was really starting to become an issue, and after the irrigators, a large segment of the irrigators revolted when it became public in the legislative session of 2013, Jerry and the rest of our board, we held a lot of meetings throughout the irrigation project and the reservation to get feedback from irrigators, okay? So we spent a whole summer pretty much doing that. We came up with some key issues that were of concern, that are still of concern today. As was mentioned, there was no amendments allowed in the compact, and we, I want to point out a few of the issues and problems that we have, and lies, quite frankly, being told. First is that it was a negotiated agreement, okay? Negotiated agreement would tend to make one thing, but all the parties had a say in what was going on, okay? When I was first on the joint board, didn't know much about this, and the compact was being negotiated, several of us tried to bring up a lot of concerns. We were flatly ignored. They did not want to hear what anybody else had to say. It was clear that the governments involved had their agenda, they knew what they wanted to do, and they didn't want to hear from anyone who didn't go along with that. And that's happened with all the parties, not just the irrigators, by the way. But after the compact went through, we, those of us that were involved with it at that time, have been working on this ever since, because it does not protect the irrigators. Another one of the big mistruths that you will hear, or untruths, is that it protects everyone's rights. Untrue. The irrigation districts have water rights filings timely filed in the water court that we would be forced to withdraw and to give up, and to allow those water rights to be controlled, owned by the United States in trust for the tribes. No word to the irrigators. What I like about the People's Compact is that it truly, of course, one of my primary interests is irrigation, but it also protects everybody. I'm a member of another tribe, not CSKT, but I have 3 sisters who are CSKT tribal members. And this is the first agreement that actually treats everyone fairly. The people, not the governments. I don't know how many people saw it, but typical letter to the editor in the Missoulian today. No one that is opposed to us wants to discuss the merits or the content. It's all about the process, but we have so much invested in the CSKT compact, all of that. I really encourage you to, the documents are back there for the framework for legislation for this. Please get them, please be informed. This follows the law. It stays within legal precedent and treats everyone fairly. I'm not going to go into the details here of this letter, but they point out 4, what they're calling problems with the People's Compact, all 4 blatantly untrue. So I urge you and encourage you to get involved, get informed, and know what you're talking about so you can recognize the untruths.
It's Kate's, no, it's not your fault. So here's the beautiful thing about Montana. We are not professional legislators. We're not professional politicians, just serious amateurs, right? We're citizen legislators. We have a real job on top of what we do at the legislature. And as such, you know, as a group of legislators here that have been asked to carry a petition of grievance up to the federal court or up to the federal government, you know, we all have special reasons or what that means to us personally or to our separate districts and also to our talents of what we do at the legislature. So I'm going to pass this down. We're going to start all the way over with Carrie. We're going to work it back over. And you need to hear from your citizen legislators.
I'm turned now. I've had the honor to serve the people of Montana in House District 64 for the last 3 sessions, and I was just elected to my 4th, and we do have term limits. But I'm honored to serve, and you know, people ask me, how come you got involved in legislature? When I was in high school, I used to walk down to the courthouse. My dad was county commissioner at that time, and I'd go into his office and ask where he was, and he'd be down at the clerk and recorder's office. And so I'd go down there, and he was reading MCA code. So for those folks that like to read MCA code, it's one boring set of books, but I enjoy MCA code, and I enjoy the Constitution and government and the process. And so I spent 10 years on the Downtown County Planning Board, and then I ran for legislature in 2013 and was fortunate enough to be elected. So this is my last term, and then I'm just going to kind of fade away into the sunset. So anyway, I appreciate being able to serve the people of Montana. But this compact was a disaster, and when I read it, and you know, I don't know how many pages it was, but we were asked as citizen legislators to consume this huge volume of information in a short period of time. And I remember Dr. Al tried to get up and make an amendment on the floor to take out the immunity clause, and we weren't even allowed to make that small change. So it was kind of forced down our throats in the legislature, and there was a lot of money behind this thing pushing it forward. And so I think this alternative is, I think it's a very valuable document to settle, I think, the division within the state on the different sides that have just been you know, butting heads over this whole period of time. And I think that's what Senator Bates is interested in, is trying to get something that works for the people, for the tribe, for the waterway holders in the state. So I appreciate that.
My name is Mark Nolan, a representative from House District number 10, which is the Greater Big Fork area. I have some friends in the audience. This is my 3rd session, and I went in with Dr. Al, and his points that he brought out are so vital for us all to understand. I've come back and tried to explain it to people how this thing was rigged, and that's what it was. there was nothing fair about it. It was a done deal, and there was things that happened. And that isn't what we're supposed to be there to do. We're supposed to be there. I was hired, or actually, I was elected to be the citizen legislator for the Big Fork and Lake area. And I was told and asked many people, what are your issues? What are your concerns? Then this water compact deal came up. I got to meet a few people. Elaine Williams is one of them. Very knowledgeable, educated on tribal Indian affairs. And Dr. Kate. So when I listened to this, I go, well, there's a different opinion here. And then when we tried to do something on the floor and they wouldn't let us, where's fairness in that? And where's it constitutional? It isn't. So I want to address a couple of points. What does this new compact do, the People's Compact? You know, we have seen division, brother pitted against brother, sometimes brother against dad. Well, that's so sad. That shouldn't happen, especially not in Montana, right? We're different than the rest of the United States. We're unique. But it's harmed us. It's pitted us, as you've heard. So what does this compact do? Well, it stays within the law. It's constitutional. So it will withdraw all off-reservation claims. So I have some claims in Kalispell and some other places in our state. And when the entity that was brought up and said we will not file claims, I thought, oh, okay, some stability, maybe something credible there. And then they turn around right after we get out of session and they file those claims. Kind of makes me wonder what's really going to be happening. And if this other third-party entity is going to be in charge, and they do that to us just a few weeks after we get out of session, it causes some concern. So I'm here to represent my folks, you know, from the greater Big Fork area. So what else does it do? It protects the water rights of all citizens, as we've heard. It does mend fences with our friends and our neighbors. And as it's been said, and we watched on the video, it will withdraw all reservation claims in the CST compact, those 10,000 claims. So that's what this compact's going to do. Okay? Those are all wonderful things and good things. You know, we as legislators try to do things to promote a way to enjoy the living here in the great state of Montana. But to live here, there's some of you folks here in the audience have land. Now, how much is your land worth if you don't have water? It's minimal. Okay? When this entity wants to control and have access to our, and if it's done appropriately, it could be okay, but have access to Hungry Horse Dam's water, okay, and control. Now, if they prove themselves to be good stewards in some areas, but then they go and file these 10,000 claims already. So I have questions and I have concerns with that. So we need to be treated fairly. I want to be treated fairly. You want to be treated fairly. When I went to one of the first meetings in Polson about this compact, and the Department of Interior was there, and we asked him questions, and he wouldn't answer the questions because our questions were, would they be able to put a meter, this is just a little thing, a meter on our water? He wouldn't answer. Finally, he came up, because we wouldn't let the issue go, and he said yes. Well, we're in an uproar, we were all upset, and how could that happen? We're not going to allow this to happen. And his comments were, this would never happen. That's not what we're talking about. We're not interested in this. But guess what? They weren't going to file those 10,000 claims. And so it's making me believe I have a little distrust along the path, ladies and gentlemen. So I have concerns. But we need to be fair. We need to be fair to all of our citizens. The CSKT Water Compact doesn't treat off-reservation water rights fairly. Now, we're going to leave that behind us, okay? Because we're going to get behind the People's Compact. And with the People's Compact, we are being treated fairly. Because I don't want to sit around, and I've had discussions with some of you in the audience about how great Montana is. And I want to be able to tell my kids and my grandkids, not my grandkids, how great we were, how great we are, what a great state, what a great place to live. I want to be able to say that. I don't want to say, yeah, it used to be great. Montana used to be good. The United States of America used to be good. I don't want to do that. I want to say we are great. but we need to be treated fairly. And we are Montanans. You know, we never give up. We rise to every challenge, we fight and we win. We are Montanans and we are Americans. So Montanans, let us tonight go forth and reject the politics of division, the CSKT Water Compact, and be renewed with the People's Compact. We want a brighter future for our children and our grandchildren, but we must fight for the cause of our country. We must fight for the cause of liberty, and we must fight for the cause of our water rights. It's been said that our nation is exceptional, and I agree with that. Because it was built upon some good words. 5 most beautiful words in the English language is, I want to be free. President Reagan has said of us, they are tired of being told that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan for ourselves. Tonight, we are presenting a better way forward with this, the People's Compact. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I'm Carl Glenn. I'm a representative from House District 6, which is basically the West Valley area, all the way over to Whitefish Stage. And we've done this a number of times. We've went around and talked with people about this compact, and they always leave the money stuff to me. So I'm kind of the money guy, I guess. And maybe that's because I'm cheap. So one of the things, if you grab one of these little newspaper flyers here before you leave, that has a lot of information in it. Basically everything that we've talked about tonight. And one of the things that it has in there on page 5 or 6 or something is a comparison between, for example, Tester's bill and this new compact. And if you go all the way to the bottom almost, it shows the dollar amount that they are. So Tester's bill was going to cost us $2.3 billion. This one, by comparison, is $775 million. So it's about a third of what Senator Tester's bill was. And back in Washington, D.C., they like to spend a lot of money. So they might not like this, but we're going to try and do what we can to convince them that a little less money is better for everybody. The benefit to this is that with this money, we've tried to solve some stuff. And we've done so using the numbers that have been historically used. So the claim that we're settling is addressed with the same dollar figure that it would have been addressed with back then, and then it's moved forward with inflation over time. And so that's how that portion of the money came up. The other portion of the money, like they said, goes to rehabilitate the irrigation project, which it should have been done all along. The money off the dam was supposed to be, the money off of the power generation at the dam was supposed to be keeping up with the upkeep in the irrigation project, but that money was not used for that. So the irrigation project is in quite disrepair, and it needs a lot of improvement. And so that's another big portion of what the funding goes for. But one of the things, when I talk about the money, the other thing that sticks in my head all the time is that and we've talked about it a number of times here, and that's the uniqueness of this compact. This compact was going to be different than any other compact that had been done in the state of Montana, or for that matter, nationwide, because of the off-reservation water rights. So if you think about that, if we're going to set a brand new precedent with off-reservation water rights, not only is that a big deal for us right now here, but it's a big deal for everybody. Everybody else in the state of Montana, because every other Indian reservation is going to say, hey, wait a minute, we want off-reservation water rights too. And then everybody across the nation. So from a monetary, a financial standpoint, to look at it, this water right across the whole nation being taken and And having off-reservation water rights is gonna mean that everybody's gonna end up paying for that. It's gonna be monetized at some point. At some point, you'll have to start paying because those water rights are infringed. And that will be a hit on our country that we can't take. That'll make the 2.3 billion look like chump change if we have to start paying for water everywhere. I think this is a good idea. I think that we have solved a lot of problems that were in the old compact. I'd encourage you guys to get educated, talk with your friends, your neighbors, your cousins, anybody you can, and we're gonna have a big ask of you here to write some letters, to get on board and try and see if we can't change the momentum that this thing has, and try and get a new path forward that'll be better for the state of Montana and better for our nation as a whole. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Keith Regier, Senator from Senate District 3. That's the extreme north part of Kalispell, Whitefish, and West Valley area. While there's a lot of things in the CSKT compact that were not good, I want to talk about two things that are corrected in the People's Compact. And they were briefly mentioned in the video. One is dual administration. The CSKT compact gives administration of water in the reservation, boundaries of the reservation, to what's called a Unitary Management Ordinance, a UMO. It's a brand new water court, heavily represented by the tribe. And that UMO will administer the water on the reservation. And remember, the water isn't quantified. We don't know what amount the CSKT, there wasn't any in there. So this UMO then will dictate all the water. The state of Montana won't. All the other tribal water compacts have a dual administration. The tribes administer their quantified amount of water, and the state administers the rest of the water. UMO is really a bad thing. The People's Compact does a great job straightening that out and gets the water controlled by the state that should be controlled. All those other 6 tribal compacts, I think the Reserve Water Right Commission did a great job with them. They quantified, and you can go to Montana Code. They're in Montana Code. The Blackfeet's in there, the Crows, they're all in there, and it tells you exactly how much water goes for the tribe's use. CSKT didn't do that. I don't know how a legislator could have voted for that, but they did. So, dual administration is put in by the People's Water Compact. Second thing, Bureau of Reclamation. People's Compact will replace the BIA with the Bureau of Reclamation in oversight with rehabilitation of the Flathead Irrigation Project. Flathead Irrigation Project, there's canals and reservoirs all over that reservation. It's a great way of supplying water, but it needs to be upgraded. There's a lot of lost water through seepage and erosion that has gone on. It takes money to fix that up. I went and looked up the charge that the BIA has. The BIA has oversight over federally recognized tribes and deal with general assistance, disaster relief, child welfare, law enforcement, tribal courts, and managed trust lands. Now, the Bureau of Reclamation, on the other hand, has oversight over water resource management. They deal with the operation of the diversion, delivery, and storage projects that get built throughout western United States for irrigation, water supply, and hydroelectric generation. So it's obvious that the Bureau of Reclamation is best qualified to oversee rehabilitation of the 5th Flathead Irrigation Project. So those are two things that are really improved in the People's Water Compact. I would like to, just in closing with my part, mention that in the 2015 session, the compact really passed because of fear. I talked to a lot of legislators on the east side of the mountains, and they said, we're going to have claims filed against our water rights. We're going to vote for this compact, and then it'll just be your problem in the west. And it barely passed. Not by much, but it passed out of fear. And I would like to echo what Mr. Cole said. Tell us what's bad about the People's Water Compact. Outside of the process, if you don't agree with that, but look at the compact itself. Tell us what's bad about it if you're opposed to it. Thank you.
Derek,
Hey guys.
Representative Skis, good to see you here. Is there any comment you would like to make?
The health,
Shorter than 35 minutes.
Health and Human Services wants a lot of our tax money, so just have it. Sorry, didn't mean to cut in late, guys, but we have a lot of responsibilities, and that's where I was over at the health folks, and they're talking to me about Medicaid expansion, how we need to keep it. Totally different subject. But I love the new compact. It's the perfect solution. And I love what we also discovered. I don't know if we talked about it yet tonight, but there was a Supreme Court decision that showed that the treaties were with individual Indians, not tribes. And so this compact solves that problem in that we're not paying the leadership of the tribes, we're paying the individual members, which therefore it makes it, by law, it matches what the Supreme Court decided. I don't know if anybody has said that. I hate repeating things that everybody else has said, but I love this compact. It should work. We should pass it. It should take the place of the other compact, and God bless everybody out that's working on it.
Thanks, Derek. So, for me, what I like about it is finality. Supposedly we had that finality a couple other times, like when the treaty was signed. Well, there's obviously things that we had that worked out through time. 1966, when we had the Indian Claims Commission, supposedly when that was signed and monetary payments were made to the Salish Kootenai Tribal Corporation, that was finality. But that didn't happen again. But here's the deal that I believe in. As a parent, as a grandparent, and as a citizen legislator, that it is our responsibility to figure a way to work with each other to create a situation where we can settle all grievances and have it done so that our grandkids and our great-grandkids are not fighting this issue or being divided by the same issue. That's the beauty of our country, right? The beauty of this country is it's we the people. So here's our ask. This is a legitimate purpose. This is a legitimate movement to create or to create an alternative compact by asking our federal legislators to do so through legislation. It's legitimate. As we've seen by responses by those that are proponents for the old compact, this scares them. They find this to be dangerous. That's because they are the government. They are the bureaucracies that are not elected. They are scared because we, the people, are bringing a new idea. That we, the people, are using our civic government and the structures created by our Constitution to bring a petition of redress of agreements. And it's not a done deal, no matter what they say. So the ask is simply this. We do have Senator Daines, as one, Representative Gianforte, that are open to the idea of coming up to a solution that unifies the state rather than divides us. And I hope that Senator John Tester would feel the same. And our ask is show them that there is interest in this idea. And that means letters and signing a petition. One letter from you, handwritten, 2 or 3 sentences, is thought to mean that there is at least 5,000 people that think the same way you do. So your letters are powerful. Form letters, not so much. 5 pages, they're only going to read the first 3 sentences. But a handwritten letter that says, give this idea a chance, we find merit in it, or something to that fact, is powerful. Very, very powerful. Do not send it to DC, because then with all the bioterrorism and chemical terrorism, they won't see it until June or July. Send it to the state offices of our representatives. And please, do not forget Senator John Tester. He needs to be a part of this. He's one of our representatives as well. All right? So at this point, that's our ask. We hope that you find this appealing and have merit. You agree that it's legitimate for the people to bring an idea and to redress a grievance and petition our government to address it.